Spoilers for Reservoir Dogs. This is kind of an old school video, but today at a party, I was talking to my friend about what is by far my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. And he was talking about when he first saw it in the 90s, he walked out. And that movie is Reservoir Dogs. I love that movie. I love that movie so much. I have only seen it 4 times. But every time I've seen it, it feels like I'm having a gourmet meal of storytelling. As a screenwriter, structurally, the things done in that movie, the way flashbacks are used, the timing of the different reveals within the story feels, so natural. It's why rules for screenwriting are made. Because rules for art are always bullshit. They're always just kind of suggestions. And then if you do it your own way and you pull it off, you're a genius and you did it. But, maybe you should probably follow some of the rules to get it right for the first few times. Reservoir Dogs takes that and throws it out the window. It doesn't feel like there are act breaks, even though there clearly are. It just feels like one long scene, like one long story being told fluently and fluidly rather, and effortlessly by a master storyteller. But my friend had walked out of it when he first saw it. And I was like, why? And he said, because the scene with Mr. Blonde where he cuts off the cop's ear was too upsetting. It felt too mean-spirited. And I thought about that scene when he was saying that as mean-spirited. And he'd seen the movie recently. Now he likes it. This guy's a brilliant guy to talk to about movies. But that thing mean-spirited. Now, I do think there are movies that are mean-spirited. For instance, I would say maybe the French movie Inside is a mean-spirited and cruel movie. The House That Jack Built is an angry, vicious, mean-spirited, and cruel movie. Funny Games kind of is. Anytime in a movie that the villain begins getting away with things that only normally an overpowered hero would be able to get away with, and it's like, actually, the villain had another plan, and it feels like the heroes are being fucked, even though they should sort of be further along in their arc, that feels mean-spirited. Hostel, the way the nice one is the one who gets killed, and the bad one is the one who gets revenge. Surprise, we subverted American Werewolf in London. We subverted you. Normally it's the nice guy who lives. That feels, the way that scene plays out, feels darker than necessary. Also, I think the scalping in Hostel 2 is a moment that's a little rough. Sorry, this is Editing Max. I also wanted to say that the Blob does the same trick. The 80s Blob does exactly the same trick that Hostel does, where the nice guy is the one who gets killed by the slime. Spoilers for the 80s Blob, but I wanted to say that because I was watching it and I was like, Hostel and the 80s Blob do the exact same thing, where they introduce a bad boy and a nice boy, and you would think the nice boy is going to be the hero, but actually he's going to have a unbelievably gruesome death. The deaths in the 80s Blob, the 80s Blob's like the most mean-spirited movie of all time, but also like it's the best at being mean-spirited. If you haven't seen the 80s Blob, it's better than you remember because you've never seen it. Back to the thing. Hey, comment mean-spirited movies in the description. What's a movie? Just because something's mean-spirited doesn't mean it's bad, by the way. It can be good. It can be, I'm going to get back to the thing. Wolf Creek is a movie that's mean-spirited and cruel unnecessarily. A movie that the name of which I can't remember, about a couple that encounter just a group of evil teenagers in the woods who just torture them. That movie, thank God I can't remember the title, that is mean-spirited. Whereas a movie like Lake Mungo, even though it's really scary, has an unbelievably warm heart. It's all about, even Blair Witch Project is another movie that has a tremendous amount of heart. And when I say heart, what I really mean is character moments that give the characters integrity enough that you like them and you get what the movie is going for. You both understand how the movie wants you to feel about a character, and you feel that just because you're a human being having an emotional reaction to a story. I don't think Martyrs is mean-spirited, and I don't think Audition is mean-spirited. I think Audition is actually soft and nice. And I don't think Reservoir Dogs is mean-spirited. In fact, I think it's soft and nice. And this is the insight I wanted to share with you today. That moment in the Stuck in the Middle with You, Michael Madsen, Mr. Blonde dance. If you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, go watch it right now. You're back. Okay, so that dance and the torture of the cop is so brilliantly executed because it feels so gruesome and horrible, right? It's so unfair, gruesome, and horrible. It's horrible, and it feels like it's just there to have like a cool scene where the bad guy does something really awful to an innocent person. Except it's not mean-spirited. In fact, it's one of the most heroic, awesome moments of the movie. He's doing this after interrogating the guy because they believe amongst them is an undercover cop. Once Mr. Blonde goes to light the cop on fire after cutting off his ear, Mr. Orange, Tim Roth, who's the character who has been dying on the floor up until this point of the movie, is surprisingly revealed to be an undercover agent. But even better than Tim Roth killing Mr. Blonde and revealing himself as an undercover agent, which, by the way, immediately makes him the hero of a movie where up until then, you sort of didn't have anyone to root for. It turns him, it's a screenwriting mic drop, him killing Mr. Blonde in that moment. And the fact that the ear got cut off, and Mr. Orange didn't shoot Mr. Blonde. It's only right when Mr. Blonde is going to kill the cop that Mr. Orange cracks and his hero side comes out and he betrays the bad guys and reveals himself as undercover by killing the evil Mr. Blonde. We've killed the villain of the movie, we've made the hero of the movie, and we're like halfway through the story. We're halfway through the movie. But then, because Quentin Tarantino is operating at some other God mode level, that's not enough. Immediately establishing a hero character with a huge moment like that is not enough. Because the cop, it turns out, the whole time, knew it was Mr. Orange. He recognized him as a cop. And so now suddenly, oh my God, holy fuck, this movie has two new heroes. A movie that up until this point have been about criminals that shoot innocent women now has two of the most heroic characters, because not only did Tim Roth suffer through all that and be so committed to being undercover that he let a guy's ear get cut off before he was willing to save him, not only is Mr. Orange a hero, this cop got his ear cut off and was gonna get burned alive and didn't sell out Mr. Orange. Suddenly, a movie that's protagonists were anti-heroes now has two of the most morally white, totally babyface characters ever. Like, the heroes of a heist movie are the two cops who stop the heist. And up until this point, we didn't even know that was gonna be in this movie. We thought it was gonna be about criminals fighting over diamonds. Again, Reservoir Dogs, I can talk about this for a long time, but Quentin Tarantino is not done, because there is one more thing to do. When Mr. White and the gang come back to the warehouse and Mr. Blonde is dead and now the two heroes are there, they shoot the cop for no reason. They murder the cop for no reason. And in that moment, you have lost one of the heroes of the movie, who up until this point you thought was an extra. Getting his ear cut off turns him into an iconic character. If you've seen Reservoir Dogs, you can picture him in your head tied to that chair with the blood streaming down his face, because it's not just a great image. It's a great image supported by great writing that undergoes a three-part arc. A cop's getting tortured and interrogated. His killer is killed, and it's revealed that he knew the whole time, and then he is killed senselessly. Quentin Tarantino sneaks a mini tragedy into a movie in order to get us even further on Tim Roth's side. And if you know how Reservoir Dogs ends, you know that nobody wins. It's brilliant, it's genius, it's not mean-spirited, it's lion-hearted. It's showing It's letting characters be good and smart and brave in a way that few movies do. Movies will settle for saving the cat. When it turns out in the middle of the movie, you can torture the cat, cut the cat's ear off, cut the cat's tail off, cover it with gasoline, and prepare to light it on fire, and you can still create two likable characters out of that situation.